Well, a lot's happened since I did the last tutorial on spinning wheels and steering wheels in iClone 5, I believe it was. So it's probably time that we do a new tutorial. There are a lot better ways to drive a vehicle in iClone 7 than using this method. But if you need something down and dirty, quick, maybe this might be what you need. I don't know. But this method is still possible as far as I can tell, at least on my system in the newest iClone. This is 7.3, I believe. So let's get to it, start from scratch, and see how we can make it work. Okay, let's start from scratch. Here's our wheel that we're going to be rotating and steering. Let's make sure that the gizmo is dead center. Make sure your wheel is dead center. Make sure its pivot point is dead on, right in the middle. 0, 0, 0. Always a good place to start with most everything. Okay, let's go ahead and do our little spinner helper, which I like to do. You may not need to do this necessarily, but I think it helps. Let's go over and go to our building blocks, 3D blocks, and find the torus, which I like to use. And there we go. There's a pretty good one here. I'm going to enlarge it. And make sure we have the torus selected for sure. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and just smooth it for grins. You don't have to do this. Let's go ahead and make sure that it is dead center. And let's go down and look at our pivot point, and sure enough, it moved. So let's now zero everything up, and that should be smack dab in the center of the torus. Very crucial. For grins, once again, I don't need any textures per se, and we'll just give it a color. There we go. And I like to make it somewhat transparent for grins too. Not important. Okay, now this torus is going to be spinning, so let's go up here, and which direction do we want it to spin? We want it probably to go this direction. Okay, let's turn off snap. Control E should turn off snap. There we go. So that's the direction we want to be going. So what I like to do is probably just bring up our timeline here, and going to go out a little bit here, put a keyframe right there, and let's just say 10,000, and enter that, and what do we get? There we go. Okay, now also I'm going to look at that last little bit. I kind of want to make sure it's a little closer right there to being perpendicular. Okay, so right there, almost. There we go. Okay, right there. Now let's collect the clip and right click, and I don't know if you can see. I'm going to right click. I'm going to, it's maybe out of the frame here, I'm going to add to perform, and that will bring up this box, and okay, and now I'm going to remove the animation, and nothing is there. Now we're going to perform tire spin, and there we go, and let's just let it run all the way out. Okay, now let's go look at the animation, and there it is, right there. Now, if you look, there's a little something here at the beginning, which I'm not sure what that little bit is, but I'm going to delete it, and then I'm going to bring spin all the way to the beginning. Okay, now notice also that it doesn't start spinning till about the 10th frame, 15th frame, there we go. So I'm going to cut this opening segment off, break that. Now let's slide it back, and now it should spin. Okay, now let's take a look here at the end. Let's go ahead and repeat this a few times. Let's see how it looks here. Yeah, it's relatively smooth at the junction points. Okay, we can go ahead and create another perform task. If I right click now, let's go ahead and collect the clip and right click, and once again it's off the frame, but it says add perform, and I'm going to add that to OK, and do OK. And now I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to remove the animation, and here we go. Now let's perform spin long, and now let's let that run to build up a nice long spin. Okay, through the magic of editing, now we have a nice long continuous spin for our helper object. Okay, let's go up here, and just for grins, once again, let's see, that's our wheel helper, and that's going to be for the left front tire. Okay, all right, now let's take our wheel and let's attach it to the helper, and now we have a spinning wheel and a helper. Okay, now let's add another object. Well, this is crucial. Let's make sure our helper is a dummy, and by making it a dummy we can use the Control D key to turn off the dummies, so that's a good thing there. Now let's go to our building blocks again, 3D blocks, and let's find a little bit there. Okay, I like to use cones. Let's turn on. There we go. Okay, there's our cone. Let's grab it. Once again, let's adjust our pivot, and go down here and make sure the pivot is on the tip, just for grins there. And let's rotate, turn on snap again, and let's do that. And let's center this up. And just do that. Now let's drag it out, so now it's pointing to the center of our axis for the helper and the wheel. And once again, let's turn off, delete the textures. We really don't need textures. Let's give it a color. Opacity for grins. Maybe self-illumination would be good too. Okay. All right. And that will be our look at for the left front tire. there's one other thing we need to do, because if we use the look at right now, it's probably not going to work. Everything's working just fine. If we try to have the look at, let's say, the wheel helper looks at, it acts really weird. So that doesn't work. And if the wheel, okay, if the wheel does the look at, it once again does very strange things, flipping back and forth. There may be a way to fix that, I don't know. But what seems to work better is to once again create a object block here. Simple block's fine. Once again, we want to make sure it is centered. So let's make sure our pivot is centered in the, here we go. And let's make sure it's in the center of our universe here. And we can scale it down a little bit if we want to, not a big deal. Okay, and once again, let's delete textures, not important. Okay, there we go, very obvious what that is. Okay, all right, very good, and let's make sure we make it a dummy. And go up here, dummy, so, okay, let's go ahead and select our cone and make it a dummy too, or look at. So now when we hit Control D, everything goes off. Okay, so we've got the box right here. We have our look at, and we have our wheel helper, and the wheel is attached to the wheel helper. Now, let's take the wheel helper and attach it to the box. All right. And now let's have the box look at the look at object. And it's turning okay. Let's see if it will spin. And it spins. And you will be able to steer it. Like so. And still spin. Okay. So before we build the rest of the rig, let's see what we've done. We've got a wheel helper. The wheel is attached, as you will see, attached to the wheel helper. Now the wheel helper is attached to the box. The box is looking at the look at object, like so, and is steering, and we are still getting rotation this way. Okay, so let's build the rest of the rig. Now, for right now, I'm going to turn off the box look at for now. Stop the look at, and we'll notice the rig there. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. So now we need to get that wheel turned around. Okay, so now we've got two wheels, hopefully spinning the same direction, like so. Okay, let's delete any animation that we have there. And let's also duplicate our look at. Now, I'm being loosey-goosey here. Obviously, you might want to take a little more time and line this up better. But for now, there we have that. Let's create our tie rod, which I would call it a block. Once again, let's just take a simple block. And make that our tie rod. And let's just, for grins, I'm going to create a duplicate here. Hold down the Control key and make a duplicate box there. I may use that later. And we'll make our little tie rod right here. It can be pretty much anything. I'm just happening to use a shape somewhat appropriate, but it can be anything you like. Okay, and then we'll just once again delete any textures that we really don't need. Okay, and now let's make that a dummy. Okay, and let's attach, like so. Okay, now let's go back. Let's select our box, and once again we will select look at. Okay, in our other box, look at. Select our tie rod. Let's just go ahead and name that tie rod. It's controlling that. And now we're steering both wheels. And do we have spinach? That's the key. Okay, we have spinach, linkage, and look at working fine. So there we go. Now the only other thing ideally is using this box to link everything together. So call it the master dummy. I usually consider myself. Okay, master dummy, and let's do that. You can give it a color later. And now let's select the tie rod and attach master dummy box over here. Attach to master dummy and the other box here. Everything's linked, so now you should be able to save that. Everything's, yes. And obviously you can create an axle that's visible. Now one would hope that everything is all done. You've got it all set to a master. and everything's working really cool. You can turn the dummies off. Of course, they're not going to render anyway when you do your final render. And you would like to think everything's done, but I noticed one other weirdness. Is strange enlarging. Takes about 10 frames, 15, 20 frames. Gets big and it gets small. And once again, I couldn't quite figure out what that was. Didn't see any errant keyframes located anywhere. I did isolate it to the wheel helper. Couldn't quite figure out what it was. One way to get rid of it, you can click on your animation for the particular helper, and you can delete this segment, break it, and it will be okay. It's very strange, and someone smarter than I will have to explain what's going on. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure I did something weird. But for now, that's pretty much what I do to alleviate the problem. It's very unusual. You could obviously, when you edit your rendered clip, you could easily edit that out and not include it in your final product, but it's strange. I noticed if I can remove the animation and do a new pass with the perform command, do a spin long here, but it does it again. It does it every time, and I noticed that every time I have to, create an edit point and edit that out. So once again, something strange. Can't explain it. Someone else may be able to, but my simple fix is just to break it, edit that. Now, if I delete this little segment here and slide this back, we're okay. So that's one way. And you can remove the animation and do a new pass. Once again, if you delete that little segment, that's where the weirdness is, and I don't know what's going on there. Can't quite figure that out. Maybe someday. But bottom line is it can be edited out, and let's go to the beginning here and try a new perform. Yeah, someone else will have to explain that part. But at least we've got spinning and steerability control at this point. So there you have it.